Thank you very much for that great introduction, Raleigh. And as Raleigh said, my name is Benjamin Lee, and I am the founder of Think Trade Think. And I'll be taking you through a presentation that will give you several strategies to help you stop the bleeding from your trading account. So what we'll accomplish for this particular webinar is, first of all, we want to determine the most common trading mistakes and what causes those mistakes. Because once you understand what causes them, then you can begin to take the necessary steps to start to eliminate them. And the second thing we want to do is to gain insight into the personality traits of winning and losing traders. You want to see what particular traits you have of winning and losing traders, so you can kind of understand what personality traits you'll need to adopt and what personality traits you'll need to get rid of to kind of get to that next level. And then the third one is to discover the 3 parts of trading that you must master to stop the bleeding. Then learn what you need to focus on to take control of your trading destiny. And lastly, we'll review a few strategies that will immediately improve your trading. All right, and what I want you to do is really to just have an open mind, and I want you to participate, because those of you that will kind of actively participate, you guys will get this information deeper into your psyche. All right, sound good? Great. All right, so is go through the most common trading mistakes and their causes. Now, how many of you are actually guilty of overtrading? I'm sure a lot of you are. And it's interesting because overtrading is something that occurs to a lot of newer traders because they really just want to be in the market. They always say, is that a trade? Is that a setup? And they really want to get into the market just so they can feel like they're doing something. And on the opposite end of that is fear or hesitation when a trade setup occurs. How many of you are guilty of that? And when you actually have a valid setup, and for some reason you have something that stops you from entering the market, whether it's fear, whether it's that little nutter in the back of your head, you know what? I think I want to wait a little bit before I enter this trade, or I want more confirmation, and then you end up missing the trade completely. And then how about getting out of your trades too early and not letting your runners run, right? I'm sure everyone's guilty of this one. I mean, it's really difficult sometimes to really see how much room is in a trade, right? So you get out early, and then you see the trade go for another 10 points on the ES, or another 50 ticks on oil, or something along those lines, right? And that's one of the most frustrating things that occurs. And then the next one is not cutting your losses and taking full stops. And what I mean by that is, obviously we should all trade with an initial stop loss, because you never know what could happen when we enter a trade. And the way we make money is the people that step in after us. So once we enter a trade, we're basically at the whims of the market. Right? So what we're looking for is for the people jumping in after us to push our trade in our direction. And sometimes that doesn't happen, even if you have the perfect trade setup, because the market is a continuously and constantly evolving organism, right? Certain things happen that we don't expect, right? So if you're taking full stop losses, you're not being proactive in managing your risk. Does that make sense? Great. How many people are guilty of being inconsistent? You have let's say 4 or 5 great trading days in a row, and then all of a sudden you have one day that basically wipes out all of the gains from the last week, right? That's another extremely frustrating thing that happen to traders. And then transitioning from sim to live trading. It's amazing how many people I speak to, how many traders I speak to, they're like, oh, I just made $1 million sim trading. And when they start trading live, just the wheels just come off. And the reason why that is because sim and live trading are the same, yet they're completely different animals emotionally. Because there's nothing on the line. If there's no risk, if there's nothing we can lose, it's much easier to make objective decisions in the market. But when we have our own hard-earned money, sitting in our trading account, and then we have to start risking that, it makes it a lot more difficult to make those objective decisions. And lastly, not understanding how their emotions play into their trading decisions. Uh, it's interesting how in the last, I would say, 40 or 50, I'd say 40 years, a lot of traders have been trying to eliminate their emotions from trading. Uh, but the thing is, to eliminate your emotions is to deny what makes us human, right? So every decision that we make is based on an emotion. When we buy a car, or we do something like, let's say, the people that we date and marry, right? It's an emotional decision, and we try to justify it with logic. So to try to eliminate our emotions is basically trying to cut out what makes us human. And the most powerful computer on this planet is still our minds. So if we can understand how our emotions play and factor into our trading decisions, it'll make us that much better traders. All right, so the causes of common trading mistakes. One is lack of awareness. And again, I'll talk about awareness in a little bit. But what I mean by awareness is a couple different kinds. First of all, just the awareness of knowing where you stand. A lot of people kind of come into trading and they don't really know what's supposed to happen. So it's hard to become aware of where you really need to be. And then the next form of awareness is basically being present, right? How many of you are sitting there in front of your trading computer and trying to trade right now and listen to me at the same time? For most people, it'd be very difficult to split your attention like that, especially with all the information that kind of bombards you at every single second. So to be fully present, to try to quote unquote be in the zone is what we need to do every single day, as we trade. And the absence of systems or a framework. There's so many different options that we can basically take part in the financial industry. You can trade stocks, you can trade options, you can trade forex, you can trade futures, you can trade binary options, and you can do long, short, covered calls. I mean, there's so many strategies for you to take money out of the market that it actually gets very overwhelming for most people. So, what you really need to do is to understand where you want to be, in which space you want to play, and focus on that and create a framework. Because if you're not focused, if you have too many things going on, it makes it very difficult for your mind to process all that information, and it just kind of just stops working, right? How many people have had that where they've tried to add trading system after trading system after trading system, and then it got really, really, just cumbersome to the point where you said, wow, this is so much information, I don't even know what to do with it anymore. Right? How many of you done that before? Yeah, it's a very common thing. Then your lack of focus on trading psychology. After you've internalized your trading system, whatever it might be, whether it's in stocks, bonds, options, forex, it's 80% psychology at that point and 20% mechanics and execution. Because you can only bring what you know into the market, but then your emotions really dictate how you interpret that information. So if you're not bringing the best version of yourself, forth every single morning, then you're really putting yourself at a disadvantage versus every other trader. Question, but how do you know what you don't know? By going to events like this, by listening to people that have actually been through this, and understand, where you need to go, and basically picking their brain. That's how you learn what you don't know. And the next cause of common trading mistakes is limiting beliefs, or not willing to let go of their story. And again, how many of you have beliefs that, oh, it's really hard to make money in the market? Oh, this game is rigged, or there's something wrong here, or I don't believe I can make money, right? That's a limiting belief that will really hinder you in becoming a consistently successful trader. Imagine wearing a weighted vest that's 40 or 50 pounds, and having to live your entire life like that. You can't take it off at all. When you sleep, when you shower. Imagine how much more difficult it'll be to live your life that way, right? So that's what limiting beliefs are. If we get rid of those limiting beliefs, if we can shed those beliefs and turn them into more empowering beliefs, it'll make it that much more easy to really get where you want to go much quicker. And of course, fear. How many of you trade scared? That's a very dangerous thing, because fear, makes you and initiates the fight or flight mechanism, right? And when you have that, you're just trying to do as best you can. Basically all logic goes out the window. You're just either going to run or you're going to fight. So that's a really, really bad state to be in, when you're trading. And then not fully engaging or trading in sim as if for real. Unless you really start to, put something on the line, when you're trading sim, then it's not going to matter. The one thing that I tell my clients to do is, when I have them go back in the sim, if they haven't been trading well and I have them go back in the sim, they need to have something on the line. So whether it's, for every, let's say point on the ES that they lose, they have to do 10 burpees, or they have to put $1 into a jar that they give to charity, right? So at least they feel some sort of loss or some sort of pain. That's the problem that most people have, because if you don't feel the pain, you're not going to feel the same way, or you're not going to react the same way when you start trading live. All right, so any questions there? More specifically, how does one know where they want or should be without exploring different markets? And again, what you really need to understand, Frank, is what kind of personality you have. And it's interesting. If you want to be in and out of the market very quickly, you want to find an instrument or a market that allows you to transact business in that way, right? If you really like to just be in the market and not trade too much, then you need to look at like longer term investment strategies. Other people are great at trend following systems. Other people are better at counter trend. That's the way I am. I'm looking for low risk, high reward, high probability trades. So I take counter trend trades because I can define my risk very easily, and then I have a greater chance of getting a higher reward trade. All right. Question: what about practice using market replay data, not the simulator? The only challenge with that is that what's going to happen. So it's a lot more difficult for you to say, you know what, I really don't know what's happening, unless you're taking a random day from several months ago where you don't know what's happening. All right. Another question from Clive: how do you make the transition from demo to live without suffering too many losses? And again, the best thing to do is to treat your sim trading like live. Again, if you put something on the line every single time, like if you lose, then you begin to start acting as if there's something to lose, like you would in live trading. Okay. All right. So the personality traits of winning and losing traders. So the first one we'll look at is the personality traits of losing traders. They don't recognize the need for personal transformation. And what I mean by that is, every time I speak to a new client, I always tell them that, you know what, you're going to become a better person as you become a better trader. And the reason why that is because you start to identify and you start to work on those little bugs and issues that are in your mind. And as you begin to become a better trader and you start to shine the light on those issues, then it'll start to pervade throughout your entire life, whether it be in your family, your physical health, et cetera, et cetera. So become a better person as you become a better trader. And then they play the blame game. Uh, in other words, um, they're not willing to take responsibility, or they're not accountable for their own thoughts and actions. So, a person that plays the blame game would be, oh, the market is taking my money, or, it's my trading system's fault. Instead of saying, you know what, I am the only person in control of what I do, and I need to figure out how to eliminate, as much uncertainty as possible, and to take control of what I can control, and, do whatever is necessary to understand how to get my trading to the next level, right? So another way to put it is, the victim mentality. If you're a victim, there's no way in the world that you'll ever get to where you want to go, okay? Because you're giving control to an external force. Once you take back control and say, you know what, I'm in control of this, you can start to begin to make necessary changes. And they protect their ego at all costs. The ego is a very interesting thing. It's what really dominates a lot of people's thinking. And oh man, I can talk about this for like hours. But instead of just saying, you know what, I need to do what's necessary to make sure I'm becoming a better trader. They say, oh, you know what, I need to make sure I get 100% of my trades correct. So they take very little profit and they have a huge risk on the back end, right? So they can say, you know what, I'm 99% profitable. That's great, but if you're not you know operating with the proper risk management system, it's not going to matter because you're going to blow out that one time you lose. And then they hold limiting beliefs, as we kind of spoke about earlier. Then they're conflicted. They have a lot of different ideas and thoughts going on in their head, and they aren't able to create a um, what's the word? I want to say consonance, um, within their head. So where everything just kind of matches and kind of plays a nice harmony. And they're undisciplined. They don't have the ability to control what they're doing. And then the personality traits of winning traders. They personalize their trading to match their own style and personality. And this is very important because it's very difficult to take another person's system, another person's trading system, and trade it as well as they do. The reason why that is because what they've done, they've personalized it, and they know what their strengths are, they know what their weaknesses are, and they've created a trading system and a framework that allows them to take advantage of their strengths and either eliminate or kind of hide their weaknesses. So until you can actually personalize your a trading system that you've learned, it's going to be very difficult for you to kind of get the same results as whoever's teaching it to you. And they hold powerful and empowering beliefs. They're optimistic. How many of you actually think you're going to make money every single time you enter a trade? That's a very important thing. Because if you're not optimistic, if you don't believe that there is a possibility or even a probability that you'll be successful, you're going to be fighting a very uphill battle, right? So this is kind of like where the fear starts to kick in if you're not optimistic. You understand risk and reward. This is probably one of the most important pieces you can learn. If you can understand risk and reward, then it really doesn't matter which trading system you use, because you could have a trading system that will give you let's say 90%, right? But then what will have to happen is you probably have to take very little profit, and then you have to have larger risk. And there's other ones where let's say it's only 10% effective, right? But you take huge gains and minimal risk. So depending on, and that could be all the same trading system. It's just all in how you manage your risk. Does that make sense? Great. Okay. And then they're confident. Obviously, that is a very important piece of being a consistently successful trader. How are you prepared? How are you? And that's probably the next thing. To be confident is very important because if you're not confident, then how do you execute your trades immediately without hesitation? And the next piece is being open-minded and flexible. If you're not open-minded and flexible, it's going to be very difficult for you to change as the market changes as well, right? Because if you remember back in 2008 in March, when we bottomed out at 666, I believe on the ES, right? We had seen the market come down from, I believe, 1400 to 666. And if you were short, and all of a sudden you weren't open-minded and flexible enough to see, all right, here is the bottom, right? I'm going to start moving the other direction. Then you would have been killed every single time as we went up from 666 all the way up to 1900 right now. Right? And of course they're disciplined. And important, and most importantly, they're well prepared. Right? How many of you actually do homework before you trade every single morning or afternoon or whenever you trade? How many of you, and be honest, actually do homework and prepare? Or do you guys just sit in front of your computer, right before and just say, you know what, here's my trade setups and I'm done? Okay. Well, one of the things, that occurs when you do homework is you start to understand the context of the market because you know what, no 2 days are alike. So you really need to understand what's happened before, what didn't happen before, and what could happen in the future. And then lastly, they love what they do. Obviously, it's much easier to love what you do when you're making money. But if you can actually get to a point where you wake up and you really love what you're doing, that'll make a significant difference in the way you approach your trading. All right, so what we're talking about now is the three things that you need to master to become a consistently profitable and successful trader. And what this is the trading flow chart. And I created this because a lot of people ask me, like, what do I need to do to be successful? To three sections. The first one is your system, right? Then the second piece is your psychology that you bring towards forth every day. And then the last one is your strategies. What strategies do you use? What framework do you use to help you manage your system and your psychology? And what we'll look at first is the system part of the trading flow chart. First of all, you need to understand what type you have. Is it a trending system or is it a rotational system? And some systems are specifically trending and some are specifically rotational. And others you can actually do both. How many of you know what kind of system you have? If you don't, you need to, because if you're trying to trade a trend system in a rotational market, you're probably going to get chopped up. And if you start trading a rotational system in a trending market, you're definitely going to get, you're definitely going to get killed, right? So that's one of the first things that you should understand about, the system. And then, if you have one that's trending, you should find one that's rotational, so you can begin to, apply different strategies as the market, evolves and changes. Then what your win-loss ratio is. Now, if you can understand, what your the optimal success rate is for your trading system, then you can strive to get to that particular point every single morning, every single day, and really see what needs to occur for you to get to that point every day. And understanding what the market is attempting to do. Is it going up? Is it trying to go sideways, or is it trying to go down? And then asking yourself, how well is the market accomplishing that? is it doing really well and going up, or is it, trying to kind of struggling going up? Right? If you can kind of answer that question, it'll help you to, kind of bring additional context into your analysis. And then, the decision support tools. What do you have that will help you to, make the proper trading decisions, right? So what I use is, certain tools like, market profile, volume profile, um, the volume composite. I'll use, certain, news events. So, what are the things that you specifically use to make those decisions? And what we'll talk about right now, specifically to system, is the auction process and how that, can apply, and overlay on top of, what you're doing right now. So the auction process in the market. So if you think about it, the market acts exactly like an auction. Actually, it is an auction. Okay. So, right here they're showing a wine auction, or it could be any auction, whether it's, Super Bowl tickets or World Cup tickets or anything, right? You have a bunch of people in a room and, they put up a product or an item or something that, has some value, right? And let's say, they're trying to sell, the finals for the World Cup, right? Uh, you know, right next to the field in the middle, right? Let's say there's 4 tickets and there's 100 people in a room. It started out at $1. How many people of those 100 would bid? Probably all 100, right? And as you go higher in price, you're going to see more and more people drop off, right? And then what you'll begin to see is you'll see half of a bell curve. You can just imagine that for a minute, and I'll show you what I mean in the next slide. So it'll move up, right? $1, $2, 10, 20, 30, 40, 100, tens of thousands of dollars, whatever it is, until you get to a point where, somebody will, the last 2 people will be, auctioning it, and then the last one will drop off and one person's left. And what happens is, the market, the auction stops at that point, right? So the only difference between an auction like that we're familiar with and the financial markets is that it's a bidirectional auction. And what I mean by that is, the market moves in 2 directions. So once it starts moving in one direction, let's say up, and once it stops moving, then what happens is, an opposite auction starts in its place. Does that make sense? So once one auction finishes in one direction, one starts in the opposite direction immediately. Does that make sense? Okay, great. Okay, so as I was saying earlier, this is a great example right here. So, this is what we call a volume composite chart. Okay, what this shows is all the volume at a certain price over a given period of time. So let's say this is, let's say it's a year, right? So you begin to see these, histograms, right? So the red lines are where there's less volume, the green lines are where there's, more volume, okay? And, like I was talking about earlier, if you just kind of take this portion right here from 1160 to 1168, so let's say this is all 100 people in the room, right, for those tickets. So everyone's going to bid on those tickets at $1. But as price begins to go up, you see it start to decrease like this, right? And then eventually you get to a point where there's only, one person left. Okay. Does that make sense? And it's interesting, isn't it, that how you begin to see how this kind of moves up and down like this. So, what basically occurs is, the market will, move up and down in these quote unquote bell curves, right? And then we'll try to find, acceptance and rejection of these levels. Okay? And so what this does is, the market leaves clues, and you can begin to anticipate where the market may go. Okay. And as I was talking about earlier, these high volume areas right here, this is basically where they have the most agreement between buyers and sellers on price. Okay. So what that means is they agree to transact business together, right? And then low volume areas or an unfair price is where they have less, like right here. So buyers and sellers, don't agree to do the price here. And so what the market's job is to facilitate trade. That's the whole reason why it's there. It's to bring buyers and sellers together to transact business. So, if you understand that, right, and if you can understand what high and low volume areas are, it'll begin to kind of, give you, certain indications at times of where the market can go. So imagine, you're running on the beach, right? If you're just running right at where the waves break, right, just at your ankles, you're able to, kind of, run, pretty quickly, right? Mostly at like 90, 95%, right? And that's basically a low volume area. So when price reaches a low volume area where, buyers and sellers don't agree on price, one of two things typically happen. Either price will bounce off or price will just break through and continue. So imagine it kind of like a magnet, right? So if you have, magnets in the same pole, it's either going to repel, in either direction, if that makes sense. Okay. And then the difference between a low volume area and a high volume area is, if you were to kind of wade out to, like neck deep and try to run, you know, run in the water that way. And it's going to be a lot harder to do that, right? So what typically happens when price reaches a high volume area is it begins to rotate, right? Because it's a little bit harder to kind of get through that level. Does that make sense? Question. How can you do a histogram of volume versus time? You need to have a specific trading software program. This is called the volume composite chart. Uh, it's not. This isn't market profile. This is actually called a volume composite chart. But most market profile and volume profile software has it. Uh, the ones that I use are NinjaTrader with the Rancho Dinero Acme plugin. You can also use IRT, Window Trader, Window Blue Trader. I believe there's a few of them that have it. All right, and then let's move on to bids and offers. There are always the same amount of buyers and sellers. Okay, but it's interesting. They always say, "Oh, there's more buyers right now. There's more sellers right now," but it's kind of a misnomer because for every transaction that takes place, there's always one buyer and one seller. So there can never be more buyers or more sellers. But what they mean by that is that, there's two types of orders in the market. There's a limit order and then there's a market order. So what really happens when people say, oh, there's more buyers and sellers, is that one side is being more aggressive. And instead of taking a limit order, right, because limit orders must be taken out by a market order that jumps either way, right? So a let's say you have a limit order at 14.1975, right? If you have a limit order there, what needs to occur is somebody needs to hit a market order to take out your limit order. Are you guys following that? Okay, great. And if price were to continue to move up or move down, right, more people would have to hit a market order instead of a limit order. So that's what they mean by, more buyers and sellers. Okay, so any questions there? This wraps up the system part of the the trading flow chart. And if that makes sense, you can begin to overlay this over whatever trading system you have. Okay, is that some great information? Something that you guys can use right now? All right, great, awesome. So that's the system part. Okay, now let's look at the psychology part. So your beliefs. What kind of beliefs do you have? Do you have have an empowering set of beliefs? Okay, hold on one second. Let me answer one question. Right, Clive. What is a stop order then? Okay, a stop order is where you're placing a trade. It can either be a stop limit order or it could be a stop market order, but price still has to reach that level for you to, to get executed. And the reason why you use a stop order is because if you were to just hit a limit order, you would automatically fill at whatever the bid or the ask is. So you can actually use a stop limit or stop market order, but it's just placed in the money, so to speak. Okay, so again, you either have limiting or empowering beliefs. Then your body frame. How do you hold your body when you trade? Are you hunched over? Are you breathing? How is is your breathing shallow? Is it deep? How do you hold your body? Because it's important because your physiology plays such an important and integral part into how you feel in any particular moment. In your relationships, what kind of relationships do you have with success, with money, in your family? What type of meaning do you give to events that happen to you? Do you give it a positive meaning or do you give it a negative meaning? Bringing awareness to your trading. Patterns. What kind of patterns do you have? From a thought, from thought patterns to um, physical patterns. What kind of patterns do you run throughout your life? And then your experiences. Your experiences that you had as a child. Your adult experiences, as well as those really high negative emotional events that we've had. Whether it's in trading or our lives, will begin to manifest themselves into your trading. Question, are patterns habits? Yes, yes, it's a habit. But what I mean by pattern is that you have certain anchors and you have certain triggers to feel certain ways. So to feel happy, to feel sad, to feel depressed. Right? There's a particular uh, process that must occur for you to feel a certain way. So that's what I mean by pattern. All right, and leverage. How much leverage do you have over yourself? How much negative leverage do you have? How much positive leverage do you have? And what I mean by that is, how can you make yourself do the things that you don't want to do? And then lastly, how do you deal with emotional stress? Once you have a really bad trading day, do you have the strategies to move on and to learn from whatever experiences that you had that day, and to be able to clear your mind and to not let it bleed into the next trading day? All right. So why should we focus on trading psychology in the first place? So the numbers never lie. So 95% of retail traders lose money. 91% of futures traders blow up their accounts within 12 months. And then new traders at proprietary trading firms typically have a 3 to 5 month learning curve, and then only 65% of them will make money and 35% will lose. And I think that number is actually kind of high, to be honest with you. I mean, I've met a lot of prop traders, and I believe that number is actually higher than, or it should be lower than 65, to be completely honest with you. And the reason why I'm sharing these numbers with you is so you can understand what the reality is, right? So if a supermajority of people are not making money in this business, right? What does that tell you? What that tells me is, if you try to do everything like the majority or the supermajority, you're going to have the exact same results. If you're not willing to do what the like the 5%ers do, then it's going to be very difficult for you to get the same results that they achieve. Does that make sense? And again, I'm not trying to scare you with these numbers. I'm just trying to show you what the actual reality is. And the odds are stacked against us. Our competitors, they have unlimited capital and resources, and they have access to information and research that we don't have. you think about it, like the multi-billion-dollar hedge funds, they spend millions of dollars on just research alone, right? They have teams of analysts that all they do is look for information that'll help them make more money. We just don't have that, unfortunately. Our trading costs are a lot higher than the institutional clients. I don't know what you guys transact, but with the hedge funds I trade for, they trade in the decimal 0.0000, like one, for every share that they take. I mean, what do we normally trade at our retail brokers? A lot more than that, right? And then they have their servers co-located at the exchanges. And what I mean by that is the New York Stock Exchange, the Nasdaq, they have these rooms of servers. And what they do is they allow you to buy or rent a server there. And if you guys are familiar with any type of technology, the closer you are to the next computer or the network you're trying to communicate with, the faster your response time, right? So if you're in, let's say Guam compared to New York City, you're going to have some sort of delay, compared to, the computer in New York. So, these people are just separated by, a few feet of, Ethernet cord, while we're separated by, miles, if not thousands of miles, from these same computers. So, they can actually transact several transactions way before we do. All right. So, in the financial markets, the best and brightest minds in the world, devise ways to take our hard-earned money. There was one gentleman that I met. He was absolutely brilliant. He used to work for the Israeli army, and what he would do, he would create. I mean, that's way beyond whatever I've. I mean, that's just another level of intelligence. Um, and he created, I want to say, 70 or 80 different algorithms, and one of them was pretty cool. He took Doppler technology, the stuff that you see on TV, and that helps you tell you, what the weather is going to be like outside. And he took that and overlaid it over the financial markets. So you would see these green, red, yellow indicators just kind of go as price move, and that would tell you whether or not to get into the market. So when you have these people trying to take your money, it's we're fighting an uphill battle, to say the least. And then trading will expose your strengths and weaknesses. One of the clients I was talking to recently, had some childhood events that occurred to him, and it's interesting because he never really understood how that really played into his decisions that he's made since, and how it's actually manifested itself into his trading. So if you're not aware of where you've been and what has happened to you and how you interpret your emotional feelings and sometimes your baggage, it could play a very substantial role into why you're not making the money you believe you should be making. And then after you've internalized your trading methodology or your trading system, the major challenge is maximizing your psychology every single day. For those of you that know Jim Dalton, he's one of the foremost experts on market profile. And he still has to go through the same challenges we do. If you're a brand new trader, if you've never traded before, it's all the same because we're all human, right? We all have the same minds. We all have the same makeup. I mean, obviously some people are different than others, but it's imperative that we bring forth the best version and the best psychology we can every single day. And even if you have the best method or the best research, you're still the one that has to press the button. That is, unless you have a black box or an algorithm that executes it automatically. But before you enter every single trade, you're going to have all your beliefs, whether they're limiting or empowering, your experiences, whether they're positive or negative. You're going to have all these thoughts and feelings enter your body before you press that button. So unless you're able to control and manage it, and put yourself in the best emotional state, then it's going to be very difficult for you to be consistent. And then no matter how much experience or wealth you attain, you will always need to manage your trading psychology. And that goes back to in the markets for, I want to say, I think I'm dating him now, maybe like 50, 40 years, 40 something years. And he still has to do the same things we do every single morning. He has a routine, and he still has to manage his psychology just like the rest of us. All right, the market is filled with uncertainty. The only certainty is that the market will change and do whatever it wants. We cannot control or predict what will happen in the market. Unfortunately, a lot of us try to, but it doesn't really matter what we want. We can't impose our will on the market. And that's what happened to the government of Japan. When they tried to intervene against the Japanese yen, they made it work for about a few months, but then eventually they were basically run over by the traders, by the traders and investors. Question: how do you find a great method so that you have a chance of developing the psychological side? Really, you need to find something that makes sense to you, right? And when I started trading this, the way I trade, it just made sense to me. I was like, oh, that really does make sense. And the market fundamentals, the way it just A plus B equaled C, and that was what made me choose to really adopt that system, because I think I've gone through 13 systems to date, and there is a lot of great information out there. There are other systems that have some holes in them, and it's all about finding what makes sense to you. All right. So there are a number of variables that may affect our trades, and again, like I said earlier, we can only enter the market when we do, but it's the people or the trades that come behind us that make us successful or not. And that can that can be affected by so many different things. We must create certainty in those aspects of trading that we do have control under. Your trading psychology, your preparation, and your trade and risk management. All right, so actually this should say, why is trading psychology so difficult to master? So unfortunately, why is trading psychology so difficult to master? Because we're constantly evolving. Each trader's journey is unique, right? There are no two people that are alike, because even twins, they have different interpretations of the same event, right? Even though they have the same parents, the same environment, they grow up differently because again, what they give certain meanings to, how they react to certain things or respond to certain things, will make them different. External factors constantly affect our psychology. Whether something happens with our spouse, or we have an event that kind of takes our focus away from our trading. It's really difficult to really put ourselves back into the game. We really have to be honest with ourselves and see reality as it really is. And this is difficult for most people, because we always believe that our reality is a lot better than it is. So what we need to do is to say, all right, well, what is the actual reality, and what do I have to do to create the reality that I want, right? So how can I control that? How can I do whatever I need to do to take that next step? How do you improve concentration for a sustained period so you can study the charts properly? That's a great question. Let me see if I have enough time. I'll answer that question at the end. Please ask me at the very end. All right. So the third part is strategies. And what we'll go through right now is, the different strategies that I have. One is the 60 to strength. Um, some people might call this, hour of power. It's the daily routine that, I take myself through and my clients through to, ensure that they're bringing the best version of themselves to their trading every in state management. How do you control and manage the states that you feel, while you're sitting in front of your computer? Trading criteria. The trading criteria is a piece of paper that I've created. It's about 20 pages long that details every single trade that I take. So, the sections of that are the market principles. What market principles support this trade? When is it best used? What market conditions best support this trade? What is the synopsis of the trade? What charts do I need? What is my preparation that I need? What's my trade entry? What's my trade management? So to understand every single trade in that, in that manner will really help you to understand whether or not you really know your system. And if you don't, it'll force you to ask the proper questions, and it'll help you build confidence, in why and the how your trades work. Does that make sense? Right. Great. And then your trading plan. How do you approach your trading every single day? And your business plan. Do you actually treat your trading like a business, or is it just a hobby? Obviously, the people that trade it like a business, like a serious, like entity, those people will be a lot more successful because they're bringing a lot more resources, to whatever they're trying to do. And again, I'm not talking about like money per se, but I'm talking about time, energy, and focus. In your daily trading homework, how do you prepare every single morning? And then your notes. What notes are you writing down, to kind of give you, the necessary, um, perspective and insight, to your trading. And then lastly, your trading journal. And the reason why the trading journal is so important, and I know a lot of people don't necessarily like doing this, is because what we as educators are trying to do is to migrate our thought process over to our students, right? Because that's really what we're trying to do. But it's very difficult if we don't understand what your thought process is to begin with. So when you write in a trading journal, when you say, all right, this is what I was thinking before this trade, this is what I was feeling during the trade, then what we can do is we can begin to unpack your thought process and your feeling process, and then we can make adjustments, and say, all right, well, this is what you were thinking at the time, this is what I think, or this is what I feel, or this is what I'm doing when I'm in the same situation. All right, so what we're going to look at is the 60 to strength. And it's made up of 5 different sections. Emotional ignition, actualizing affirmations, transformative visualizations, putting your best self forward, and adopting awareness. All right, so the first piece is emotional ignition. And what that is that place me into specific emotional states that I want to feel to ensure that I begin to bring my best self forward every single morning. So the first question that I ask myself is, what am I grateful for? And the reason why I start off with this question is because it puts me in a state of gratitude, right? It I have to answer this question from that state of gratitude. If I if I don't, then I can't answer that question. And the reason why I utilize this is because, if you guys are familiar with the law of abundance, the law of attraction, right? The more you are grateful for what you have in your life already, the more the universe will give you. Okay. And another reason why, I ask myself this question is to put myself in a state of abundance. The reason why that's important is because if you're trading from a state of scarcity, you're going to have a very, very difficult time because you're going to be trading scared. And a lot of trading educators will tell you never trade with scared money or never trade with capital that you can't lose. Because if you're trading scared, you're going to start to act emotional and make some really poor trading decisions. And the next question is, how can I maximize the most of my gifts today? And the reason why I ask myself this question is to kind of remind myself, what gifts I already have, like my, everything that I have, all the resources, all the, the strategies, all the tools that, I've accumulated throughout the years. And, what can I do to maximize and do more with those gifts today? Okay? And how is today going to be amazing? That already presupposes this day is going to be amazing. It's just asking the question, how is it going to be amazing? And then how can I create even more wealth, value, and happiness today? And I love this question. This is my favorite question. Because this presupposes that I'm already creating wealth, value, and happiness. It's just asking, it's priming and asking my, my subconscious, what I need to do to, create even more of that. Right? And if you guys notice, the way these questions are worded, they're always, worded in the positive, and they're already presupposing what I want to feel. Right? So I'm already feeling gratitude. I'm already feeling resourceful. I'm already, being optimistic for the upcoming day. And, it gets me focused on, how can I create, even more wealth, value, and happiness today? Right? Do you guys follow? Great. All right, so the next section is the actualizing affirmations. And when I do these affirmations, it's different than saying, "Oh, I'm happy, I'm happy, I'm happy." It's much more involved because if you're not congruent in your entire, your mind, your body, your soul, then it's not going to work as well. So when you're, utilizing these affirmations, you really need to get into it, right? So, when I say, I have when you say I have everything I need to allow me to succeed, it's like I have everything I need to allow me to succeed. So, you really want to put the energy and the effort because uh, motion creates emotion. So you want to use your entire body to, actually do these affirmations. And the reason why I start out with, I have everything I need to allow me to succeed, because it gives me the permission, right? I give myself permission to succeed, and I recognize that I already have all the tools, the resources, and everything that I need to be successful. The next one is I get stronger by the minute, I get stronger by the hour, I can feel my strength, I can feel my power. I missed a part there. And again, you can kind of substitute sexier, leaner, whatever, wiser, whatever it is. But this is a great one to really, um, start using every single day. And a great way to use these is when you're on a run, because you really get into a nice rhythm, you get into a nice cadence, and you can use your entire body as you're saying these. Then the third one is the universe creates infinite wealth that flows around me and through me. All my needs, desires, and goals are fulfilled as long as my mind, body, and soul are free. Okay, so this is another great one that just says, what, I already am in a state of abundance. The universe already creates all this wealth around me, and I get everything I need as long as I kind of keep my mind, body, and soul to the necessary states that it needs to be in. Question: Can we see the strategies you mentioned, please? Um, yeah, this is actually one of them. I'll mention more of it later for you, Mike. All right, so teacher, what about exercise? I think exercise is extremely important because the body is a temple for the mind. So if you're dealing with certain ailments, it'll take away from the energy and your ability to concentrate, and you won't be the best version of yourself. Okay. And then the last one is, I now command my unconscious mind to directly creating as much wealth, value, and happiness as possible today by giving me the strength, the passion, the creativity, the flexibility, whatever it takes to utilize the most of my gifts to help people better lives right now. So, this is my favorite one too, because it really gets me amped up. People kind of freak out sometimes when they see my morning routine, but I'm willing to do this because 99% of the people in the world will not do this, and that's what makes me successful because I'm willing to do what they're not willing to do. All right, so the third section is transformative visualizations. And what you do there, you create your ideal life with as much detail as possible. So what I've done is, I have pictures of the house that's my ideal house, right? And I have the floor plan. I have everything, I've taken a tour of the house. And what I do, I wake up as if I'm, waking up in the master bedroom, and I go to the bathroom, and do my routine. I go downstairs, have the breakfast, that I would have, you know, drive, get into the garage, drive the car that I would be driving. I would imagine the interior, the roar of the engine, and really, get into specifics about, what that ideal life is, right? And fully associate with every little detail, all your five senses: visual, auditory, kinesthetic, uh, gustatory, and olfactory. So see, hear, feel, smell, and taste. Okay, so once you can begin to create that life and live it as if it was your everyday life, then find a comfortable place and close your eyes and start to visualize, and visualize yourself going through this daily routine, and putting as much detail into it, and fully associating all of your senses while doing it. And the fourth one is putting your best self forward. Take your ideal life from your transformative visualization. So whatever life that you desire to bring into existence, however you want to manifest it. And then what you want to do is consider what resources, experiences, tools, strategies that version of you has, and then decide what the difference between the you now has versus that version of yourself has. Okay. So what I mean by that is, if you need more patience, if you need more drive, if you need more determination, if you need more persistence, right? If that's missing from you right now, and that best version of you has it, right? And then imagine that best version of yourself, right? Again, close your eyes and kind of walk into that best version of yourself with all the tools, resources, strategies, whatever it is, emotions, and then act as if you already have those. Okay. This is extremely powerful because when you can kind of quote unquote adopt all of those resources, and then you can begin to live your life moving forward that way, it really makes a significant impact. All right, and then the last one is adopting awareness. And we kind of talked about awareness a little bit earlier. And again, there's two different forms of awareness: the awareness of just understanding where you are and where you kind of need to go, and then awareness as in kind of being present, being in the zone, and just being completely focused on the present moment, and nothing else. So again, find a comfortable place and close your eyes, and then take several deep breaths, where the exhale is actually longer than the inhale, and just observe your thoughts. Right? It's okay to think. It's just you're not focusing on anything. You're just allowing your thoughts to kind of pass by, and then just enjoy that that moment, that uh, those moments of clarity. Because in the world we are in today, we really don't allow ourselves the ability to just relax and to just shut off our minds. We're constantly bombarded by everything: our smartphones, our email, our texts, uh, you know, everything. Unfortunately, we don't allow our minds, the time to really just tell us what we need to do, because we all have an infinite intelligence within us, right? Our unconscious mind is so powerful, and it's so untapped because our conscious mind is so in control and our ego is so in control. So until we're able to, just kind of shut off our minds, and just be present, you know, it'll be very difficult for us to, untap that incredible resource. All right. So there's two things that I will give to you. One is the flowchart that I have, right? And what you can do, you can, get it at thinktradethink.com/flow-chart, and that will show you everything, that I've put strategies that, basically make up a successful trader. Okay, and it'll kind of, go through the specifics of, you know, of each individual piece. Okay, so from the system, the system type, is it trending or rotational, the win loss. For psychology, the patterns. You have thought, emotional, language, and physiological patterns. The strategies. The 60 to strength. I think Mike was asking for this. The strategies. So you want to download the flowchart there. Okay, and the other one is the A Bet and a Victor ebook, and then you can get that at thinktradethink.com/ebook. And what this is a reimagining of a trading psychology uh, book. I've read a lot of different books. Mark Douglas, Trading Zone, uh, Market Mind Games. You name it, I've read it. And they're great ways to put yourself to sleep. Unfortunately, they're not they're not the most engaging. And they really do put you to sleep. They have a lot of great information and a lot of value, but it's really difficult for you to kind of put yourself through those exercises unless you've done a lot of personal development already. So, I reimagined a trading psychology book as a fable, as a story. So you follow Victor, who's the protagonist, through his journey on becoming a better trader. And the strategies that are in the book, I've actually made it easier for you to kind of gain value from them. What I've done is I've asked you what you would suggest or what would you advise Victor to do, right? So you're third party, and you're not emotionally involved in the situation, right? And then I switch it and say, okay, well, what would you tell yourself then? So I'll go from disassociated to associated. So it'll allow you to kind of see what Victor needs to do, and then how you can apply that to your own trading. Okay. So if you have any questions, please go ahead. And if you have any questions, or if you want to contact me, you can do so either at thinktradethink.com or at info@thinktradethink.com. So any questions? I believe there was one about, oh, how do you improve concentration for a sustained period so you can study the charts properly? Okay, Clive, that's a great question. And that's a loaded question. What you need to do is, obviously supply your body with the proper nutrients, right? You need to get proper sleep. Um, and it's very difficult to, have a sustained and prolonged, period of time. If you're talking like hours and hours and hours, it's really tough. So, what I'll do is, when I start, to feel that I'm getting a little off focus, I'll walk away and just, kind of divert my focus elsewhere because it is really difficult. Um, and then understanding that, we start out when we wake up with 100% of our resources. And as we begin to go throughout the day, we start to take from those resources as we think. And, we go from 100 to 99, 98, 97, 96, and we can never get back to 100 until we actually go back to sleep. We get a full night's sleep, right? So what that means is you probably get to, let's say, 60 or 70 or like whatever percentage right before lunch. And then once you have a snack, you replenish yourself, and then you might get back up to maybe 90%. And if you guys have ever read Daniel Kahneman's book, Thinking Fast and Slow, they talk about a study that they did with parole boards. And what they found was the parolees that were in front of the board in the morning, first thing in the morning, and right after lunch, had the highest probability of getting parole. The reason why that was is the parole board, their intellectual resources, their ability to analyze, the parolees' situation, and if they were, rehabilitated, decreased as they, kind of lost, their resources, right before lunch and towards the end of the day. So what they would do, they would err on the side of caution and say, you know what, you're denied parole. So that's the same thing that, kind of happens to us as we're making our own trading decisions. So if you can understand that, you can begin to take the necessary steps to, replenish your body throughout the day and to take the necessary breaks. And so you can have, a much, uh, you know, easier time. I'm not saying it's easy, but easier time to, analyze those charts. Is the ebook free? It is not free. It's $147. It includes the ebook as well as a 30-minute consultation with me. And what we'll do during that 30-minute consultation is, basically I'll answer any questions you have from the ebook, as well as share with you whatever it is you need to do to kind of bring your trading to the next level. All right. All right, what is the plugin that you use for Ninja? It's called, it's at ranchodinero.com, and it's called Acme. That's the one that I use. Yes, there will be a recording of this presentation available. Great, thank you very much. I appreciate that. So any further questions? Do I trade? Yes, I do. Question, how do I add the emotional component to enhance the trading? It's not necessary that you need to add the emotional component because it's already there. You just need to become aware of it first and see where you are, and then, figure out what needs to happen to, bring your trading to that next level. And again, the ebook is a great, an affordable way to do it. I work with other clients, from a personal mentoring standpoint, and it really, depends on what it is that you're trying to accomplish and how quickly you're trying to accomplish it. All right. So any other questions? Do I do journal analysis? Yes, I do, JW. Yes, that's something that we could do during the, the 30-minute consultation. So at least we can, kind of see, where you are and where you need to go. Question, are you among the 5%? I would like to think so. I mean, I did have 8 months without a losing day. So, yeah, if you consider that among the 5%, then yes. What all needs to go in your journal? It just really what you're thinking, what you're feeling, the reasons why you got into certain trades. So at least you can kind of look at it and say, you can look at it yourself, or you can give it to somebody like me that will kind of unpack it and say, all right, well, what's changed, in the last few months since I started this journal? Is there a difference? What changes do I need to make? So it's always a great place to start.